Has your health been covered up? Today, it's Revealing Wholeness with Dr. Troy Munson, presented to you by Infinity Whole Health.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness. And we've been having some, discussions and people...
Yes, we have, about the tongue and how the tongue tells us how our body's responding.
Yes.
And I got a question, Doc.
Okay.
I don't want to upset you, but I was taking a look. You said, go to the mirror and take a look.
Yep.
Now, I stuck my tongue out, and it looks like a rainbow. A lot of colors. So, what does this add up to, Doc?
Well, there are differences or things that it means when the tongue is different colors, and people have been asking about that. So let's go over the colors of the tongue.
Colors of the tongue.
So this will be kind of like a part 2B, or part 3 is an addendum to the tongue.
To the tongue.
So as you look at your tongue, some people have reported back, hey, my tongue is awfully white. And what does that mean? And so a white tongue that's, pretty stark white, maybe just a slight hint of pink underneath, we're looking at more of anemia, could even be things like parasites and even hormonal imbalances. And so a white tongue. Now, if your tongue is covered, that's more like we see fuzz on it. I've seen many tongues with fuzz. And so that is a yeast infection, and so usually it's candidiasis, or they have a yeast infection, systemic yeast infection. It's coming out on their tongue. And so it's a whole host of things when that happens, because with a candida infection, people don't realize that candida is kind of a really weak fungus. For it to actually invade the body and be able to habitate it,
wow,
it means their system is not so good, because they can't even kick out a really poor tenant, so to speak. And so if you're having things like that, we certainly don't want you to go on a candida diet or something like that without really doing some research about what that means. And you can certainly shoot me an email, and we will chat about what's the best course of action to do something like that. And so some people will say, hey, my tongue is pretty yellow. And again, yellow tongue, stomach, digestion, can be some inflammation and immune challenges, so it could be spleen involved with a yellow tongue. And then the red tongue we kind of talked about. We talked about stomach being in the middle, red tongue kind of swollen, sore, tip of tongue, heart. And then some people have greenish
tongue.
Greenish hue to their tongue.
Wow.
And that is a circulation issue. That's a lack of oxygen. And so here we talked about B vitamins being like a cracked tongue. Mm-hmm. So the more my tongue is cracked, the less B vitamins I have in the system, and I'm not able to oxygenate tissues very well. So we'll often see maybe some green hues to that kind of a tongue as well. And so B vitamins enable us to carry more oxygen. So does copper, which is the core of the vitamin C complex. And vitamin E, all of those are really helping with oxygenation. And then, of course, everybody would pick on, well, what about iron? Well, of course, but iron won't be pushed out into the blood if you're going to run infections. So the liver is actually going to pull iron out of the system if there's not enough vitamin C or copper, if there's not enough vitamin E, if there's not enough B vitamins, because you'll just get more and more infections. And so the body's really smart. It says, hey, you may have enough iron, but I ain't letting it out in the blood, because that would be bad for us. So your body's pretty smart that way. So these little things can now tell you kind of windows into what's happening with the body. A purple tongue, which we do see, is heart, lung, and again, oxygenation. So
it actually turns purple.
It does.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty purple. And then the two most severe that, if you've got these out there, then you need to be doing something very much sooner than later. And that would be a gray tongue, which is a fungal condition, but also an advanced disease condition. So if you see your tongue is very, very gray, and you may even start to see black. So we talk about the gray tongue and then the black tongue. And the black tongue is advanced disease conditions. I mean, these are things we certainly hope you don't have. But if you see them, we definitely want you getting somewhere now and today and not tomorrow. And so those are things that, it's all about the tongue.
That's a colorful conversation.
It is indeed. And who knew there was so much just in our tongue that could tell us about our health and how we're doing and what's going on with our body.
So when you go into a doctor's office, I'm just asking, or any medical professional person,
sure,
they should be able to spot that, should they not?
They'll have some rudimentary training. I mean, there isn't going to be a lot of, hands-on or tongue-on
Yeah, tongue on. That was good, Doc.
training in school for that kind of stuff. I know even when I went through school, we didn't talk a lot about some of the external things. You auscultate the lungs. You listen to them. You have them stick the tongue out to see if it deviates to one side, which tells us there's a cranial nerve problem, maybe something that they've had a stroke. But they don't really often talk about, what's the tongue supposed to look like? What's an abnormal tongue mean? They just don't necessarily teach those things. Even like we talked about creases in the ears being ischemia or a lack of oxygen in the body, and thus the ear creases, and that's a heart problem. So, these little things can be quite meaningful. I think we've even mentioned on the skin itself on a podcast where you see little red dots, which are cherry hemangiomas.
Yes.
And that's the blood vessels now becoming swollen due to lack of E, C, B, and now they're coming really close to the edge of the skin, and we can see them. And so as the body heals, they go away. And that's the good news. We want to see, hey, look at my tongue. I took a picture of it a year ago, and now today it's completely different because I've corrected so many things. I mean, those are things we want to see that are wins.
Amazing. And most of this has to do with, really, if you boil it down to nutrition, when you get really down to the bottom.
Absolutely. And, maybe one of these podcasts we'll have to talk about how do these deficiencies occur? What is it really in our diet that just strips away our body of what it's supposed to have? And what was dietary needs 200 years ago as opposed to today, and how have things changed? And that would be important. That's a good one to do.
That certainly is. Well, we've run out of time, Doc. Now I'm going to go home and scrape the color off my tongue.
Perfect.
Yes.
Because that'll fix the deficiency.
That'll fix it. Yeah, okay. So thanks so much, and until the next time.
I'm Dr. Troy Munson on Revealing Wholeness.